Hello and welcome to a new episode of the Business of Meeting podcast. I just arrived in Brussels to visit with my mom, and I was reflecting on two separate conversations with two different business owners that I'm helping in my cohort. And I'm thinking about the fact that if you're like me in the same generation, we are kind of the sandwich generation. I know it's not boomer X, Y, Z, millennials, whatever. It's really the sandwich generation in the sense that on one hand, we are taking care of our parents, and on the other hand, we're taking care of our children. And that is something quite unique in the last decades, I would say. And that is only adding to the pressure that one might feel being a business owner, whether you have 100 employees or you're a solopreneur. That is the type of stress which is added to running a business in the meetings and even industry. And so there's always something that I'm coming back to when the pressure is high, and I want to share that with you. This is extremely helpful, and this is again something that anyone can relate to, can use, whether you have your own business or you're thinking about starting your own business, and that is your long-term plan, why you start the business in the first place. And so I want to share with you 5 steps that I'm using to define that vision. Because quite frankly, when I ask someone, and I can ask you the question right now, what would you answer to me if I would ask you, what is your vision in the next 10 years? How do you see your life? How do you see your business? Most people have no clue. And most people would even add, I never thought of it. So here are quick 5 steps that you can use to define your vision and come back to it when the pressure is high. The first step is to define different areas of your life. And I would suggest that you go with a maximum of 7 different areas. For instance, health, kids, family, and friends, fun, personal development, finances, spouse and significant other, work, and spiritual volunteering charities. If you see in those 7 different boxes, everything that I would do in my life is actually included in one of those 7 categories. So I would strongly recommend that you think about your life and define those different areas of your life. And then the second step is for each area you want to rate it. So, for instance, if your life is boring, you have zero fun, you wake up in the morning and wonder why you're doing what you're doing, that we're probably going to be rated a 1, a 2, a 3 max. But, and at the contrary, if you know your purpose and you're excited, and as soon as your eyes open, you're ready to get going, and that is probably a 8 or 9. And then you do that for each category. If your finance, you have no need to make money anymore because you know that not only you, but your kids are covered. That would probably be a 9 or a 10. If you're in a situation where you have 6 months visibility in your business, then that's probably be more like a 3 or 4. So you see the idea. So first step, you define those 7 different areas, and then for each area, you give a rating between 1 and 10, 1 being the worst and 10 being the ideal. The third step is how to improve each area. In other words, for each area, you're going to define 2, 3 actions that you're going to take to improve that area, to move the needle in the right direction. So, for instance, if your goal is to run a triathlon, you're going to start getting a coach for running, or a coach for swimming or biking, but you're going to take some concrete action, little wins that are going to drive you in the right direction. So for those 3 first steps, define those 7 areas of your life, rate each of them, and define action that you're going to take for each area. I would say in probably like 90 minutes, 2 hours max, you can do that. And then the next 2 steps are actually the most interesting and the most impactful. I promise you, and I did one for me in 2020, and when I read what I wrote, when I read today, when I wrote then, it's fascinating how my life has progressed in those directions. So the first 3 steps, I just spoke about it. Now let's talk about the 2 main steps, which is step 4 and step 5. Step 4 is divided in 2 different parts. The first part is you going to list all the questions that come to your mind when it comes to your life and the different department of your life. So you're going back to the different areas you have defined, and you're going to list question about them, not answering them, but list question about them. So where are you living? Which part of the world? Are you living by the sea? Are you living downtown? Are you living in the country? How's your health? What about your weight? How many times per week do you train? What does your social life look like? What is your legacy? What is the status of your personal wealth? What have been your greatest accomplishment? What do you do for work? What are people working with you saying? What are your clients saying? How many offices, how many people, how many clients do you have? If you have kids, are you supporting them? So you see, there's a lot of question. And I would say for that first part, really take the time to list all those questions that coming to your mind. And that is an exercise that is probably going to take you another 2 hours. And then my advice is to sleep on it. Don't start answering those questions, which is the second part of the fourth step. So the fourth step is A, list all the questions. B, start answering those questions. So the first part, A, you took 2 hours, you slept on it, and then you go into answering the question. And you take as much time as you need. There is no rush. You don't have to take a plane. You have all the time in the world, although you don't want to take months to do that. I want to focus your energy and your mind on this exercise for several days max. And so you start answering those questions. And when you're done answering those questions, then again, let at least one night goes over, sleep on it, and go to the last and most important step, and that is describing your day, one day in 10 years in your life. So you pick a very precise moment. Again, when I did this exercise in 2020, I picked Thanksgiving 2030, and I start describing my life and all the elements of my life. To do that fifth step and describing a day in 10 years in your life, you're going to go back to your questions. You're going to go back to the answer you gave to your question. You're going to go back to the different department of your life, and you're going to start writing the story, the script of one day in your life in 10 years. And the goal is to end up with about 2, 3 pages. And then guess what? Yes, you sleep on it again. You let it sink. Then you come back to it. You read it. If you're not excited by what you're reading, it means you're not there yet. If you are very excited by what you are reading and like everything, you're done. And so with those 5 steps, you have defined the vision for your life in the next 10 years. If it's too much for you to do 10 years, you can go with 5, but don't go under it, because if you're looking at 3 to 5 years down the road, what you're going to probably do is increase 10% per year what you're doing right now, which is definitely not a visioning exercise. And it's not going to have the same impact to be used right now when you are in a moment when you are having doubts, when you're having a lot of pressure. So take at least 5 years and ideally 10 years. Now you have now your vision for the next 10 years. Again, the 5 step, define different areas, rate each area, define some concrete action to move the needle, list all the questions and answer them about your life in 10 years, and then write the script of your life of one day in your life in 10 years in 2, 3 pages. This document, I absolutely recommend to look at it once or twice a year, see if you're still aligned, what has changed, are you still excited with that? And most importantly, think about it when you are in a situation where, because you're the sandwich generation, or because you have a lot of pressure in the business, or because a client is difficult, or because you're having doubt or imposter syndrome, or God knows what else might be in your mind, and you have some doubts about why you're doing what you're doing, go back to this document. It's extremely helpful. And I can talk by experience because guess what? When that happened to me, and it happens to me as well on a regular basis, for whatever reason, I'm going back to that. And the last thing I would share with you is when I'm reading this document, the last question I ask myself, do I really want to work for someone else? And obviously, the answer is no. So I hope this resonates with you. If you want to go deeper in that, let me know. Reach out to me on LinkedIn. And I hope this was helpful. See you in the next episode of the podcast, The Business of Meetings. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in to the Business of Meeting podcast. I hope you found today's episode valuable. If you enjoyed the show, the most important thing you can do is leave a review and share it with your colleagues. It really helps spread the word. I truly appreciate your support. And if you're ready to take your business to the next level, don't forget to visit eventbusinessformula.com to learn more about how we are helping even business owners like you. Thanks again for listening, and I'll see you next time.